Lila, a line cook, stayed late to prep for a busy weekend at her restaurant. At 1 a.m., the kitchen was silent except for the fridge's hum. The lights flickered, casting long shadows, and the air felt heavy, like someone was watching. As she chopped vegetables, a clatter came from the storage room. Thinking it was a rat, Lila investigated, finding nothing. Back at her station, her knife was gone, replaced by a rusty cleaver she'd never seen. The stove flared to life on its own, flames licking high. A whisper echoed, saying her name, and the air grew colder, her breath visible. A shadow moved behind the prep counter, too quick to be human. Lila turned off the stove, but it flared again, hotter. The whispers grew, forming words, "Cook with me." Her cutting board shifted, vegetables rearranging into a perfect mise en place. A recipe card appeared, written in smudged ink, listing sorrow stew. The lights dimmed, and a figure appeared at the stove, a man in a chef's apron, his face half gone, stirring a pot that wasn't there before. Lila's phone, playing music, switched to static, then a voice, "Stay and cook." Her hands trembled as she grabbed the cleaver, but it felt ice-cold, burning her palm. The figure turned, its eyes glowing, pointing at her, the air thickening with burnt meat. Lila tried to leave, but the kitchen door was locked, the key missing. The chef's form grew solid, his face half-burned, stirring a pot that bubbled with a glowing stew. The whispers chanted, "Feed us." Ingredients flew from shelves, assembling into a dish that pulsed with light. Lila's hands moved against her will, chopping and stirring, guided by an unseen force. The chef's voice rasped, "You're part of it now." The stew formed faces, mouthing her name. Lila screamed, dropping the cleaver, but it levitated, slicing the air near her. Shadows emerged from the walls, hungry faces watching her, their hands reaching. The kitchen warped, the counters stretching, the door receding. The chef's laughter filled the air, and the shadows closed in, their touches freezing. Lila grabbed a flashlight, its beam making the chef flicker, but he moved closer, his hand cold as death. The stove roared, flames forming a figure in the smoke, mimicking the chef's movements. Lila's flashlight dimmed, and the stew boiled over, spilling onto the floor, faces writhing in it. The chef whispered, "Serve it," and the shadows chanted, their hands guiding hers to the pot. Lila fought, swinging the flashlight, but the air grew thick, pulling her toward the stove. Lila ran to the pantry, hoping to hide, but the door slammed shut behind her, locking her in. The whispers echoed inside, now a chorus, "Stay and cook." Shelves rattled, cans falling, forming a face on the floor. The chef's form appeared through the door's window, his eyes glowing brighter. Lila's flashlight flickered, revealing old menus on the shelves, listing dishes like grief pie, dated 1950. The air grew colder, and the chef's voice said, "You belong here." The pantry walls pulsed, closing in, and the cans levitated, circling her. Lila screamed, banging on the door, but it burned her hands, the lock melting under her touch. The pantry door burst open, and Lila stumbled back to the kitchen, the chef waiting by the stove. His form flickered, revealing a scarred face, and he spoke in a hollow voice. He was a chef who died in a grease fire decades ago, his spirit trapped in the kitchen, hungry for company. The stew pulsed faster, faces screaming, and the shadows grew, their hands clawing at Lila. She saw flashes of the fire, flames engulfing the chef, his screams echoing. The air grew suffocating, and the chef's hand gripped her wrist, burning cold. The stove's flames formed a door, pulling her toward it, the shadows chanting her name. The kitchen looped, the stove reappearing no matter where Lila ran. The chef's form grew larger, his eyes black voids, growling, "You're ours." The counters pulsed, knives levitating, and the shadows merged into a writhing mass. Lila's flashlight dimmed, and the stew spilled, forming a pool that trapped her feet. She saw flashes of other cooks, all trapped, their faces in the stew. The air grew thick, smelling of ash, and the chef's laughter echoed, his form flickering between the stove and the door. Lila fought, swinging the flashlight, but the mass closed in, their hands freezing her skin. The stove's flames erupted, forming a wall that blocked the exit. The chef's form towered, his axe-like cleaver swinging, grazing Lila's arm, leaving a cold burn. The shadows chanted, "Feed us forever," their faces twisting into grotesque masks. Lila's vision blurred, her body heavy, as the kitchen seemed to breathe, its walls pulsing. She threw a pan, which passed through the chef, but her flashlight's beam burned his form, making him shriek. The stew's pool grew, pulling her down, and the shadows climbed the walls, their hands reaching from above. Lila screamed, fighting to stay upright, the flames closing in. Lila yanked free, grabbing a fire extinguisher from the wall. She sprayed it, the foam disrupting the chef's form, scattering the shadows. The flames faltered, and the stew's pool receded, the faces fading. Lila swung her flashlight, its light burning the chef's form, making him scream louder. The kitchen groaned, the counters shaking as if in pain. She ran for the door, the extinguisher's foam keeping the shadows at bay. The chef's form flickered violently, his voice a roar, "You can't leave!" Lila kicked the door, which cracked open, dawn's light seeping through, weakening the chef's grip. As dawn's light flooded the kitchen, the chef's form dissolved, his screams silenced. The stove went dark, and Lila stumbled into the alley, the door slamming shut behind her. The stew and cleaver were gone, but the recipe card remained, burned into the counter. She quit the job, never returning, but the restaurant's owner later told her of a chef who died in a kitchen fire years ago, his spirit rumored to linger. Lila still smells burnt meat in her dreams, and hears whispers calling her to cook, the card's words etched in her mind. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can stay updated with more amazing stories coming your way. Join our community and never miss an adventure.